All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Legacy United Titan class Armada Universe Tidal Wave. This has been a figure I've been very excited about for a while. It's been a hot minute since I've actually gotten a Titan class. I skipped last year's, so the last one I got was the was Metroplex from the Cybertron universe. So it's really nice to mess around with another big figure again. And yeah, he does not disappoint. He's a really cool toy. It's nice to see Tidal Wave in a, I guess, sort of proper scale here, being much larger than everyone else, because he was always one of those characters in the Armada show that was like wildly inconsistent with how big he is in terms of like both his alt modes and his robot mode. Like sometimes the robot mode he'd be just like a solid head and a half taller than everyone else, and sometimes he would be this gigantic Titan-sized character walking around. So I could have seen this going either way, as either a Commander class or a Titan class. But at the end of the day, I'm pretty pleased with how this guy turned out. But yeah, here we have him in one of his alt modes. Here he actually has three, I guess, technically. Well, I mean, you could count these as three, so I guess five technically if you want to count it that way. But yeah, this is the Dark Fleet, his separate kind of like ships mode, the battleship, and the I don't know what the only one that's actually recognizable to me as a real world thing is the aircraft carrier. The other ones are just kind of like abstract things. I'm not sure if they're based on anything specific, but honestly, I don't really care. I mean, it's accurate to how the original Tidal Wave was. But yeah, no, I think these all look great. They all do have rolling wheels, so you can roll them along here, which is nice. This one in particular, because of the way it attaches, it does kind of like split apart a little bit too easily. Like these clips are the only things that are kind of holding it in place there. And I wish there was an extra kind of tab and port, because it stays together, but it does not take a whole lot for you to actually, it's not just going to fall apart on its own, but it comes apart kind of more easily than you would like it to. But in terms of other features in this mode, there's honestly not a tremendous amount. All of these little cannons are on just like, 5mm pegs, so you can rotate them around and also hinge these up and down. These little bits here are also packed separately and attached by 5mm ports. They're pretty tight in there, so I tend to not like really rotate them around because I kind of just want to get them how I like them and keep them in place, but those do technically rotate. Other than that, there's not really any other features in this mode. Like he doesn't have the like collapsing minicon slot like the original toy did, unfortunately. I was kind of hoping that they would work in some sort of compartment there. And there's not even like a minicon port on this guy, like the entire figure. And there conceivably could have been in a few places. Like up here, he does have a peg, and it would have functioned just as well as a regular peg if you just, hollowed out the middle so it could still function as a minicon port. And right here, he even has a bit of sculpting that looks like the original minicon port, but isn't a port, which is kind of annoying to me. I mean, I guess like with the Armada figures, they kind of have stopped doing the minicon ports, like the Armada Universe figures from Legacy, but a few of them have had it, so I kind of wish that this guy did. But I guess if you really wanted to, you could, just like 3D print out some pegs that you could peg into any of these holes to kind of like act as an adapter. But it's a nitpick. I do wish with such a big figure like this that he did have some sort of like minicon compatibility, just because some of the other Armada Universe guys that they've made did. But overall, I still think it looks pretty good here. Now, in terms of comparisons in this mode, just for a standard one, here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe, so you can see what it looks like with them. I mean, obviously, even though Tidal Wave is gigantic, the scale still doesn't really work, because like aircraft carriers, even in and of themselves, are humongous. So like the scale doesn't really work, but also that was never really going to happen with Tidal Wave. He's always just been kind of a ridiculous alt mode, having an aircraft carrier become his arms and nothing else. That's like, it was never going to be properly scaled. But still, I feel like that, he's big enough that it kind of works anyway. But that's what he looks like with him. Let's see, let's get on our Armada Universe Optimus Prime from last year, the Commander class, and then why not, we'll bring on Megatron too while we're at it, just so you can see what he looks like with the two of them. Again, properly big, even though he's not technically the right scale. That's what he looks like with them. What else do we have here? here he is with a variety of other like boat and hovercraft transformers, just so you can see what he looks like with a few of them. Obviously, they're all pretty small figures, but still, I feel like that kind of looks cool with all of them together. Just to show him off with a few other sea-bound guys there. Bumped the camera a bit, my bad. Here he is just for a size comparison with a jet. Here he is with Starscream. Here he is with his original Minicon ramjet, so you can see how they work together. Again, you can like sit him on there, and it's like the perfect size for him to like fly in on this ramp. But there's nowhere to actually like peg him into place, unfortunately. And again, like this really could have been, since all the Minicon ports were just 5mm pegs. But whatever. Again, this is the Energon version of Ramjet because that's the only other version of Tidal Wave I have. But that's what he looks like with him. And then last but not least, here he is with. Again, I don't have Armada Tidal Wave, but I do have Energon Tidal Wave, which is the same mold, and mine's also missing the wing bits there, just so you can see how each of these respective parts look like with their earlier counterparts. And yeah, obviously this guy is a lot bigger than the original Tidal Wave, and you can see that pretty clearly in this mode, but still, I feel like that looks pretty cool as a display there. But that's pretty much it for comparisons. Moving on, we're going to get to one of his other alt modes here. He does have the big combined ship mode. Unfortunately, unlike the original Tidal Wave, you cannot straight up transform him from robot mode to the big combined mode without taking anything apart. He has to parts form, which is not like the original figure, but still, it I think does make the mode look maybe slightly better overall, because it doesn't have like the weird kind of like leg extension bit that the original one did. But to get these guys prepped, this one is pretty much all ready to go. For the middle section here, you want to take just this section and just kind of fold it up like this, so you can take these like pontoon bits and double hinge them down. They're on nice ratcheting joints there. You want to actually spread them out a little bit, just because then you're going to take these clips right here will go into the section right there. And you just kind of tab that in, and then take the crest of his head, and it actually has like a dedicated slot in here to kind of peg into. And then just bring on the other section. And then you really want to make sure this is like fully compressed up, so you can take this section and fold it back down and peg it into place. So there we have that. Then for this section, you do just split it down the middle, and then on each of these bits, there is a fold out clip that you just rotate out like that. And then there's a few, like the clip goes in here. There's also a tab here that goes into a slot. This peg will go into a hole. So it's a pretty firm connection on either side. Again, it's not too complicated. Again, I would have, I guess, probably preferred it if it was able to transform straight into this mode from robot mode, but overall, I think it does help this mode out for the better, because like then he doesn't have like the legs kind of showing back here. And yeah, here we have him in his big spaceship mode, and yeah, that looks absolutely awesome. I love the way that looks. It looks pretty much spot on to how it used to, just a little cleaned up in some bits, but still pretty accurate. Obviously, not a ton of new functionality here. It's pretty much just the 3 Dark Fleet modes just kind of attached together, but still, it's pretty cool to see the full thing in its full effect here. In terms of comparisons in this mode, here he is again with Optimus and Megatron, just so you can see how they all look together. Again, obviously, pretty much what you'd expect scale-wise here. Dropping him. Here he is again with Sideswipe and Starscream, just for some standard size comparisons there. For another big Titan class ship, here he is with the Ark from Kingdom, just so you can see how that kind of size works out there. Again, pretty decently sized Titan class figure here. Definitely smaller than some of the ones we've gotten, but in robot mode especially, I think he is a little bit taller than the Ark, but we'll check that out once we get to robot mode. And then last but not least, here he is with the original Tidal Wave, well, the Energon version, just so you can see just how much larger this figure is overall. But that's pretty much it for the big spaceship mode. Now, this guy does have an extra mode that the original character and figure did not have, in that they did give him a base mode, which honestly, I really don't like the way the base mode is, but I'll show it off just for posterity's sake, just because it is part of the functionality of the figure. And then I'll just kind of cut to go back to this mode so we can show the transformation from like from the Dark Fleet straight to robot mode, since a lot of the things that you do for this mode are the same things you go to do in robot mode, and I just kind of don't foresee a lot of people using the base mode all that often, but I'll show it off. So you do want to just like split these sections like they were before. For these bits here, we just rotate in the clips here, and then you want to open up this section, take his hip joint, and rotate it out like that, but otherwise just keep everything the same. And then same thing on this side here. And then in the instructions, so he does have, well, I'll talk about this later, but he does have like extra bits to come off to do his combined mode with Megatron. And these like little feet extenders are just hidden inside the legs here. And in the instructions, they say to take these off for the base mode, but they don't say anywhere to put them. So I'm guessing they just like kept the holdover of like, oh, here are all the extra bits to take off for the combined mode. And like, forgot that they actually don't have to come out for the base mode. So unless I'm missing something, I'm pretty sure these are supposed to just stay in here for the entire thing, but whatever. So I'm just going to leave them there, but you know, I'm sure you could find a place to peg these on if you really wanted to add like a little extra detail just for differentiation's sake, but I'm pretty sure they are supposed to just stay in there. And then obviously we'll just split this section again. You want to take this section here and just split it down the middle like that. You want to rotate this bit up, and then we actually take this whole section here and it will come out like this. And then how do we have these? I think these rotate around for this mode, if I remember correctly, and then you fold up this section like this, so it kind of double hinges in like that, and then fold this up. You can have this rotated either way. This is how it is for like the they use these for like the combined mode with Armada Megatron, but I'm pretty sure for whatever reason for the base mode they want to rotate around like this, and then you just take this little peg and ratchet it out like that, and mostly just do the same thing on the other side. It's not exactly the same piece, but it more or less acts the same. It just doesn't have that little peg to rotate out, so you just want it like that. And then for these bits, fold in that bit here. I think we fold out the arm extension bit, the like attachment bits for the robot mode. Oh, this one's stuck, there we go. And then take this little bit and fold it in like that. And we'll leave these off to the side for now. For this section, you want to take this entire middle section and just rotate it up like this. And then you rotate around his robot mode head, and there's this angled peg right here that you actually fold this piece down and it'll peg in at an angle to the back of his robot mode head. So the whole thing kind of sits like that, if you can get it actually locked in place properly. There we go. So it sits like that. You do want to take off the cannons, but I'll wait to do that for now. Then also in the back here, you do want to take this bit out. I'll talk about what this is later, but you do use it for the base mode. And then fold these out to the side. Then these, you just rotate around for how they're going to be for robot mode and make sure they clip into place, which can be kind of tricky to line up sometimes, honestly, but not too bad. There we go. And we take the leg sections and you slot them in for how they're going to be for robot mode, and then use this joint here, not that joint, this joint here to rotate them sideways at the knee, so it kind of sits like that. And then you can lay the whole thing down just like that. And then what's next? We want to take these arm bits here, and you want them on their proper side. So this one with the fake kind of like Minicon hatch here is going to go on that side. So we just attach it in like this. There's just a big old port on the side, and then you take the elbow, rotate it, and then rotate it up like this. Just fold out these little finger bits so it sticks up like that. For all the things that you do for this mode, he does really just kind of end up looking like a guy lying down, which is kind of unfortunate, but whatever. Like I said, I'm really probably not going to go to this mode very often, if like ever again, so it's kind of whatever. And then for these two bits here, this one without the peg on the back, there's a port underneath here on the back of his leg that you just want to peg this into so it sits like that. And then for this one, you actually use this as like a tower, where you use this peg here and peg it into this hole right here. I don't know which way you're supposed to have this rotated. I usually just leave it like that. And then this bit here, there's just a port right there that goes onto this peg and sits like that for some reason. And then you're just supposed to take these turrets. These ones will go up here. And then the ones on the back here will go right here on the shoulder joint, like that. And yeah, there you have Tidal Wave's base mode that has no precedent in the past, and I think looks kind of stupid, but it's a thing. I've got my gripes in general about the whole gimmick. If you weren't aware, the whole gimmick that this guy does is he has like, oh wait, these bits. No, these bits are supposed to come off too. These come off. Sorry, I forgot that. And then you just want to rotate out these little pegs like this. I think these, yeah, just fold up like that. And then you peg these onto the side of the arms here to just, again, differentiate it a little bit, make it look a little bit less like he's just got his arms splayed out to the side. But frankly, I still think it looks pretty stupid. But that adds a little bit extra differentiation on there. But again, like I said, I've got my gripes in general about the whole gimmick that this guy does, where he has like basically smaller versions of his alt modes hidden inside him so that he can kind of like mass shift and do the combination with Megatron. I think it's kind of a weird concept. I'm pleased that they did it just because I know that's what a lot of people would want, but it's not really a feature I like. But when you're not like, hiding the pieces, you're like, so why does his base mode just have like a smaller version of one of his alt modes like pegged onto the top here? What purpose does this serve? I think that looks super strange. The rest of it, I think kind of, it doesn't really look like his other alt modes, but this piece in particular like doesn't serve another purpose besides that. So it's really weird to just have that pegged onto the top there. But if you didn't like that, you could just leave it inside on the back there. It wouldn't really change anything. But I just think that's kind of a strange decision. But other than that, for whatever it's worth, there is his base mode. For comparisons, here he is with Sideswipe, and then also with Armada Megatron, just so you can see how he scales with a couple figures in their robot modes. Here he is again with little Ramjet. Why not? Just to show him off there. He would be, the figure you'd want to be manning the Tidal Wave base, I guess. For another Titan class base mode comparison, here he is with Omega Supreme here, just so you can see what he looks like with another big base there. And yeah, I mean, they look pretty cool together. He doesn't really have any connectors that I can find, so he doesn't have any of the like, combat system or base system connectors, but again, whatever, I don't really care. It's just something worth mentioning. And then here he is with my best approximation of a fake fan moded base mode for the original Tidal Wave, just so you can see what they look like together. I mean, he doesn't have the whole seats thing, obviously. I mean, you can open these sections up. He just doesn't have any. I'm sure some third-party company could like make an attachment where you could add the like seats in there to fold down. But either way, that's what he looks like with him. Even though, again, like I said, this was never a mode that the original Tidal Wave had, so I could take it or leave it. Really, I'd rather leave it, but it doesn't have very much like dedicated tooling for this mode, so it kind of feels like just a fan mode that the designers added in. I'm pretty sure the only joint in here that's like specifically for this mode is this sideways knee joint, but whatever. It's really not the end of the world. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the base mode. And then shifting back to the Dark Fleet mode here, just because it's the easiest mode to start out transformation to robot mode from. We're going to start off with this one here. Again, it's going to be a pretty similar transformation to how it was to base mode, but basically you just split these sections, rotate this bit out to the side, rotate this panel out like that, and then fold this bit in. Rotate out the thigh section on the ratchet there, and you can fold this back up, and then just open up the feet and the heel, and then take this wing section and fold it in like that. And there we have one part of one leg done. Let me just do the same thing on the other side here. Just rotate that bit out, rotate that in, get it like that. And we can take the middle section here, and then you want to untab this section and actually take this whole bit, and it will double hinge out like that, and then rotate around and just leave it floating like that for now. And we can take the thigh sections, just rotate them down like this. Again, they're on very strong ratchets, feel pretty good. Then we want to take these, well, I guess, yeah, you could do this now. You can double hinge the section back down so it pegs in like this. No, actually, you do want to wait to do that, because you want to take these whole pontoon sections and they'll double hinge down like that, and again, just clip into place like before. And then, oh, actually, I don't know, maybe you could do it either way. I was thinking that they tabbed into these sections, but those don't actually line up. So yeah, it doesn't really matter which order you do that in. Now we can tab this section in. There we go, just to get the torso all lined up. And we can just take the legs, and they'll just slot right on to the sides here, just like that. And then for the arms here, split this bit down the middle. For this section, fold in the little bridge section here. Flip out the port, rotate this about 90 degrees. You want to rotate down the little thumb here. Open up this section, rotate this about around to reveal his little fingers here, and then close that back up. And we take this and just slot it into the side there, and then pretty much the same thing with this side, just you do that instead of, you know, rotate around the bridge. But otherwise, it's pretty much the same. And yeah, not too difficult a transformation, all things considered. There we have Tidal Wave in his robot mode. And yeah, he looks wonderful, which you can't see, but anyway, I'm just gonna have to adjust the camera here. Hopefully you saw most of that, most of the arm transformation there, but we're working with it here. We're a little bit off frame, but that's okay. Here he looks in robot mode, and yeah, really just a absolutely fantastic looking figure overall. He's pretty much spot on to how the original Tidal Wave looked, especially in the show. Now, famously, there were kind of like 3 different color schemes for Tidal Wave. There was the original toy colors. There was the show colors, which is what this one is, and then there were the Energon toy / show colors, because that one was pretty accurate. I was kind of hoping that they would go for the original toy colors, because I do like the spots of green, but honestly, this is the one that it made the most sense for them to go for in terms of being like actually screen accurate. And yeah, you know, now that I have this guy in hand, I'm like, yeah, okay, all right. The purple does really work pretty well just by itself. And yeah, he looks absolutely wonderful. In terms of articulation in this mode, the head can swivel. It also can unclick and look up. In case you have someone who's big enough for this guy to be looking up at. He can't look down or anything, so that kind of laughed at that. But still, it's nice that he does have that extra articulation there. The shoulders are on a nice ratchet joint, which can rotate around like that. It can also rotate out to the side on this nice ratchet joint, about that far, so pretty good range there. He's got a bicep rotation just above the elbow there. A little bit over 90 degrees of bend at the elbow there. Also, because of the port that this guy attaches on, or like the combiner peg folding into the back, you can get like 1 click of backwards butterfly joint there. If you want him to look like slightly more dynamic, you could do that, which is, you know, not super necessary, but it's appreciated. In terms of the hands here, these bits can rotate around that have the thumbs attached. The thumb itself can fold in and out, and then the fingers that are just on like 2 joints here. Also, this bit likes to fall off, and it's not really supposed to. You could conceivably just like glue this into place, because this is not like one of the bits to remove for any of the other modes. It's just kind of annoying. But yeah, the hands are a little bit weird, but there's kind of a reason for that. And frankly, you know, the original Tidal Wave's hands were a little weird too, so it's not too big a deal. He does have a waist joint. You kind of have to rotate this section out of the way to activate it here, but it's nice. And then he also has this back panel that you have to kind of move out of the way. But nice waist joint there. Again, you know, you can fold that bit down. You can't like rotate around the waist super far before this starts to look kind of stupid, but you know, you can at least get a few clicks before it looks dumb. But still, you know, it makes sense how they decided to do like the cod piece here, but it does kind of mess with that specific functionality. In terms of the hips, they can go forward about that far before they bump into the waist piece, back all the way, out to the side, more than the full splits if you move the arms out of the way. It's got a ratcheted thigh swivel there. Whew. Heavy picking up this guy. His knees go about 90 degrees, which is okay. They also can do like the original Tidal Wave knee thing where his knees only went in that direction. So for whatever that's worth, it's really just for the base mode, but he can do that. And then he does have a ratcheted ankle tilt as well, which sometimes, you know, pulls out this little clip bit. You can just push that back in. So yeah, pretty decent articulation overall. Nothing like, you know, super groundbreaking or incredible, but pretty adequate. And then obviously you can pose around these little, you know, turrets however you want. Sometimes he has them pointing up. I usually just leave them folded down just because I don't, you know, really mind like not messing with them, but you know, it is a thing that you can do. But yeah, in terms of comparisons in this mode, for a couple standard size comparisons, here he is with Sideswipe and Starscream there, just so you can see what it looks like with some average Deluxe and Voyager class figures. For some new Armada figure comparisons, here he is again with Optimus in his combined mode and Megatron, and then why not, we'll throw in Hot Shot there too, just because we've got him standing around. Didn't really feel like putting him in his car mode, but that's what he looks like with the three of them, and I think that's a pretty nice display there. Like I said, hard to say if this is like really proper scale, because the answer is sometimes, because of the wildly inconsistent animation in Armada, but still I feel like he looks pretty cool with the three of them there. Here he is again with Ramjet, just so you can see what the two of them look like together. Here he is again with the original Tidal Wave, at least, you know, the Energon version. And yeah, you can see much, much bigger than the original one. And he just like really towers over him. And it does sort of feel like this is a much more proper scale for Tidal Wave to be compared to other figures, but it's still kind of neat seeing the two of them together. I do wonder if they're gonna do like other releases of this guy with like the original toy colors and then like the Energon colors, because like, you know, they don't often do a lot of those like niche repaints of Titan class figures just because there aren't that many people that want to buy like a Titan more than once, but I'd be kind of interested to see if they do that. Again, I'm probably one of those people. I probably don't want more than one of these guys, but I'm interested to see if they do it. And then last but not least, for a couple Titan class comparisons, here he is with the Arc here, who actually is about the same height. I was thinking he was a little bit taller than the Arc, but pretty much the same size there. Here he is with Omega Supreme, just so you can see what the two of them look like together. And then here he is with the only other Legacy Titan that I have with the Cybertron Universe Metroplex there, just so you can see what the two of them look like together, because they're both from the Unicron trilogy. And yeah, I think that they look pretty cool together, even though they weren't in the same show themselves. You know, same continuity notionally, but yeah, that's what they look like together. And then, yeah, there's only a couple other things to talk about with this figure. Reportedly, like, some people have said that the knee joints on him have a tendency for the ratchets to like explode or something. I'm not sure if they like made a running change or something. The knee joints on mine feel like totally fine. Like they definitely have like a springy kind of sound to them, but you can see that like tingliness that you hear afterwards. So I don't know if that's like evidence that something might break in there, but it feels totally fine. And apparently there's a fix that you can do where you just like take out the spring that's in the ratchet and just snip it like a loop around. But I kind of don't want to do that just because like his knee joints are like pretty nice as they are, and I don't want to make them like looser because then he might fall over more often. So I don't know. I'm hoping they just made a running change, or that it was just like a couple that, you know, had some sort of weird fluke, because they feel totally fine. So I'm going to test my luck and just leave mine how it is, but it is something worth mentioning. And then the last big thing to talk about with this figure is his combination feature with Armada Megatron. Now, basically, how they decided to do this, because in the show, like I said, Tidal Wave's scale was wildly inconsistent, where, you know, when he was combining with Megatron, the parts were all like so that he would be, you know, about that tall. But when he was like standing in robot mode, sometimes he would be that tall and sometimes he would be like gigantic. So how they decided to do this was basically give him extra bits that you could take off of the robot mode and then use those as the combination bits for Megatron. And they kind of make like a small dark fleet that you attach to Megatron, which is, it's a neat idea. It's not something that I totally like, but it's a completely ignorable feature if you don't want to use it. But yeah, basically to do that, like they designed it in such a way that you're supposed to be able to have this guy fully on display in his robot mode without the extra bits, and then still be able to do the combination mode with Megatron. So I'm going to show you where all the bits are and then kind of go on to a smaller review setup so I can actually show them off individually. But basically, first thing you want to do is just rotate him around in the back here, and he has this section, which, you know, I wish this covered up a little bit more, like if this panel could actually like fold up properly. Like you can do that, but that's about as much as it folds up, because I think it looks a little bit weird to have like the mini sort of, you know, ship kind of folded up on his back here, but whatever. But yeah, you just take this section and take it out like that. Then you want to go down here to the legs and take these sections with the fins, and they'll just unpeg from the back of the legs like that, and take these sections. Then I always forget to do this, but you want to open up the legs here and then take out these like platform shoes that will make Megatron a little bit taller during the combination. You take those out of his shins here, and then you can just fold that back up. And then lastly, you want to take these sections of the arms and just detach them like that. Now, because this obviously leaves him looking a little bit mutilated, they've designed it in such a way that like you can take the thumb now and rotate it around. You have to rotate it this way. So basically, he's left with these kind of like tiny little hands where the thumbs become his fingers and then these little like cannons become his thumbs, which is, yeah, it's a good effort. I think it looks super stupid and it looks like he's, you know, just got these like tiny little mitts or whatever, but you can do that if you want to have all of these bits off to be just playing with Megatron and then still have him have some sort of hands. Like I said, it's a neat idea, but I'm not totally in love with how this looks. But I do sort of appreciate that they had this feature for people who did want to do this. But yeah, basically, we're going to take all these sections and just move to a smaller display piece, smaller review to set up so I can show how all this works out. Okay, so basically we can take all these pieces here and essentially what we're going to do is turn them into a miniature version of the Dark Fleet. We can start off with this section, which is the only one that really doesn't have a, you know, like another purpose in any of the other modes. It's pretty, well, I mean, I guess it has that tower in the base mode, but that seems like more of an afterthought than anything else. Pretty much it's just a miniature version of one of his alt modes here. And basically what we do is we take these pieces and we just fold them around like this so that these bits tab into those slots right there. And then we've got our miniature version of the main battleship there ready to go. If we take the arm pieces here, these ones require a little bit more transformation. Basically similar to what we did for bringing them into base mode, we're just going to double hinge these around so that this big tab right here will go into this slot right there, like that. And then you want to take this whole section with the fingers and then rotate it around like that. And then do the same thing on the other side here. And then we can take these sections and basically just bring them together for the miniature version of the battleship there. And then for these bits, I mean, they're pretty simple. You just tab them straight together and you've got your miniature version of whatever this is supposed to be. And these, unfortunately, just kind of hang out to the side. Actually, wait a minute. Is that true? No, I think actually you can... There you go. I kind of forgot that you could do that. Yeah, you tab them on here for the miniature version of that one. And there we have our miniature Dark Fleet, which is super cool, honestly. I mean, it's not strictly speaking super necessary, but, you know, it's kind of a neat little feature, which it isn't really used for any other mode other than just having these as they are. In terms of comparisons for each of them, we'll start off with the little battleship here and bring on both the original one from Energon Tidal Wave and then also our big version of it. This is the only one that really remains fully intact since this is pretty much just hidden underneath here. So you can still kind of have both of them displayed together so you can see what that looks like. Then we can swap this out for the aircraft carrier and bring in the other two versions of that. Obviously, this one is pretty mutilated without these sections on there, but still kind of neat to see. This is definitely, I think, the weakest of the three like smaller ones, just because it's basically just a big slab, which aircraft carriers are generally, but it doesn't quite get the same shape as the bigger versions, but that's what that looks like. And then last but not least, we'll bring on this section and show it off with the other two as well. And, you know, this one's missing the wings. The wings on this are way too big. I mean, this one's missing the wings too, but just because I lost them. But yeah, you know, again, it's not as good. I think that the only one that really works super successfully is this one, which makes sense since it's the only one that's like actually dedicated just for this, whereas these are made out of like parts of the actual robot mode. What's weird too about this one is if you separate these, you can fold out the feet on this as if you could make a miniature tidal wave. That's the only other, you know, piece of this that you could use to do that. So I'm not entirely sure why these are on joints at all and why they're not just like sculpted in place, but I don't know, worth mentioning. But yeah, that's pretty much all three of these with their respective counterparts there. Now, to actually get them into the combined mode, we can bring on Armada Universe Megatron here. He's prepped and ready to go. Just bring it up here a little bit. The arm pieces are fairly easy. I find it's easier to do these first. Basically, you want to take these sections off of here, and these will end up being kind of like platforms just to make them a little bit taller, which is not something that the original one ever did, but I don't know, it kind of helps proportionally a little bit, and the sculpting there matches up with the toe detail on Armada Megatron there, and then we can just activate the ankle tilts like that. Now for the back section here, basically what you want to do is you want to take this section, split it, and then they each have this separate piece that kind of rotates out from the inside like that. Can be kind of tricky sometimes, and these will basically peg together just like this, and then you can flip out this peg from the middle. Now, this doesn't quite work on mine because I replaced the shoulder mechanisms on my Armada Universe Megatron, so you could, you know, have that rotation. So as a result, the shoulders are a little bit higher than they're supposed to be, which means that these fold out pegs, which you're supposed to be able to use to plug into here and here on the shoulder, unfortunately, it doesn't really work on mine, but the main thing that attaches it is just this single port that goes into the back here. So that obviously still works, but it's supposed to secure it in place a little bit better than it is, but mine can't do that, obviously. And then for these, basically this one, you just have the little flip out peg here. You can attach them straight to the arms if you want to, but to make it kind of sit more properly how it's supposed to, what you're supposed to do is plug them up here on the shoulders, so they're kind of just like, you know, hovering on the arms. And again, you know, it's a little bit loose and floppy. That's mostly just from mine because it's got the 3D printed parts rather than the original shoulder joints. So don't take that as too much of an indication of what you're going to get if you have both of these figures. But yeah, there we have the combined mode for Megatron. And yeah, it looks okay. I mean, you know, it looks about as stupid as it always did, but it's an accurate stupid. It works well enough. He does still just have like the giant ships floating off of his arms, but the jetpack piece is kind of cool. And I do like the addition of the little platform shoes there. I do think that helps a little bit proportionally, but you know, he's got mostly the same articulation as the regular Megatron figure did, just, you know, with the stuff hanging off of him. But yeah, that's what that looks like. For comparisons in the combined mode, here he is with the Commander class Armada Universe Optimus Prime in his full combined mode, so you can see what the two of them look like together. And yeah, that's a pretty cool display option. Obviously, I've always liked the full combined mode of Optimus Prime way more than the kind of silly one for Megatron, but like I said, that's not really the fault of Tidal Wave in and of himself, that's just the design. But yeah, there's that. And then here he is with the original combined mode, obviously with Energon Tidal Wave instead of the Armada one. But yeah, you can see how that looks. It's a little bit more proportional with these bits being smaller. Again, I think both of them look silly, and yes, I know my Megatron is missing horns, but yep, that's what he looks like with the two of them. And then, like I said, if you want, because these are like able to separate, you can have Tidal Wave on display with Megatron in his combined mode, which obviously doesn't make a whole lot of sense, sort of, you know, to have them standing next to each other, but you definitely can have them displayed like that. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to Tidal Wave. He's a really, really fun Titan class figure, and I'm glad that I picked him up. He's definitely does not disappoint. He's, like I said, the whole, you know, like extra combination feature is a little bit weird to me, but at the end of the day, even if it's not something that I'm going to use, I think it is still a cool feature to have, you know, as an option if you want to do it. Why is this not attaching right? Oh, that's why. There we go. But yeah, no, I quite enjoy this guy. I think that he's a lot of fun, and definitely feels nice to get another, you know, big kind of beefy Titan class figure again. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to him. Definitely would recommend this guy if you have any interest in the character. If you are interested in any of my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Titan class Armada Universe Tidal Wave from Legacy United.